Good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Learn English with Philip. Just so you know, this video has subtitles. In case you do not understand 100% what I say, just have a look at CC and choose English subtitles. Today I have a new topic for you. I would like to talk to you about brainstorming, especially brainstorming for essays. If you ever need to take a test like TOEFL or IELTS, or you just have an essay exam in high school or at university, this might be very useful for you. On the screen, I put up an essay question, not a very easy essay question, but it's the kind of essay question you will probably face when you're taking an IELTS test. What is the first thing you need to do when you see an essay question like this? Well, first of all, you need to read the question carefully and make sure you understand what it means. Second, do not start writing immediately. Start brainstorming first. For IELTS, you have about 40 minutes to write a 250-word essay. For TOEFL, you have about 30 minutes to write a 300-word essay. Take the first few minutes to brainstorm before you start writing. Trust me, it will help you. Now, have a look at the question on the screen. It's about climate change. It's not an easy one. Let me read it for you. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. We must act now to save the environment, even if that costs a lot of money and slows down economic development. To what extent do you agree? Now, I agree, it's not a very easy topic, but you've probably heard about it because climate change has been in the news a lot over the last years. So what you need to do is, first of all, take a piece of paper and write down some bullet points. Now, I've already done this for you on the next screen. What you need to do is think if you're going to agree with this statement or disagree. You may partly agree or mostly disagree. It's totally up to you. But just to keep it easy for this essay, I'm going to totally agree. I wrote down 3 main bullet points. Those are the main ideas of my body paragraphs. And I wrote some secondary bullet points that give you supplementary information, supporting sentences, and possibly some examples. Now, I'm going to totally agree because we only have one world. Climate change will cause many problems and pollution kills. And I prefer to keep living instead of dying with money. That is basically my position. Now, if I go to the next slide, you will see the essay structure of, basically any essay. You probably know this already. Let me just go over it quickly. The introduction should have a hook. A hook is basically an interesting sentence that grabs people's attention, that makes people want to read your essay. Also in the introduction should be your thesis statement. This is basically a difficult way to say your main idea. Your main idea of the essay should be in the introduction. Second, you have the body with usually 2 or 3 body paragraphs. Now, every body paragraph also needs a sentence with a main idea, followed by a few supporting sentences and possibly some examples. Finally, you have your conclusion, which should not have any new information. Your conclusion should basically be kind of paraphrasing of your introduction, restating your main idea. That is the main structure of any kind of essay. Now, if you start your essay by brainstorming, your essay will basically write itself. It will be much easier to organize your thoughts and put them on paper. If you don't do any brainstorming, you don't take any notes, you don't write any bullet points, I think it's far more difficult to write a well-organized essay. So, that is what I wanted to share with you today. I think you should definitely practice writing essays, for sure. But you can't just write essays for every single topic that is out there on the internet. By the way, if you want more essay topics, just Google IELTS essay topics or TOEFL essay topics and you'll find hundreds. Now, I suggest you take a dozen of these topics and do some brainstorming. And then you take one or two and you write a full essay. So, that's what I want you to know. And that is the only way to get better at writing essays. Finally, the last section of this video is the question of the day. It's a very short question today with a missing preposition. See if you know the preposition, and you can check your answers in the description of this video, where I will leave the correct answer as always. Okay, I hope you liked this video. If you do, feel free to share it with friends. If you didn't, share it with your enemies. Thanks for watching, and by the way, the cartoon here on the final page, I've shared this before on Instagram. It is very important to think of grammar when you write an essay. It is not just grammar, it is also vocabulary, it is organization, it is linking words, it is the flow of your essay and answering the question. All these things are important to get a good grade. It takes a lot of practice. It's not easy, and many of you think it's probably not a lot of fun to write essays. What can I say? I agree. I partly agree. I totally agree. Anyway, with practice, you can do it. See you next time. Goodbye.